My 25 male girlfriend's 24F conventionally attractive friend 23F did a loyalty test on me. I'm not sure how to continue with our relationship. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I've been dating Becca, who's 24, for about 6 months. Everything was going smoothly until her birthday 2 months ago. That night, I met a lot of her friends for the first time, and I thought we had a great time. After I took Becca home, she asked me what I thought of her friend Sadie, who is 23. I had only exchanged a couple of sentences with Sadie, so I said she seemed cool. Then Becca asked if I thought Sadie was pretty. I replied that she was, but not nearly as pretty as Becca. I thought that was a safe answer, wanting to reassure Becca of my feelings for her. However, Becca seemed to take it differently. She was a bit tipsy, so I figured she wouldn't remember much of our conversation the next day. But she called me, apologizing and explaining that Sadie was conventionally attractive and had a history of taking men that Becca liked. I assured her that wouldn't happen with me. I even suggested that if Sadie was a problem, she might want to distance herself from her. I thought that would be the end of it, but for the next 2 months, Sadie came up in almost every conversation. Becca would ask if I followed Sadie on Instagram or if I had talked to her since the party. Even when I complimented Becca, she would bring up Sadie. Just last week, when I told her how great she looked in a new pair of jeans, she went off about how she had to spend so much money just to look decent, while Sadie looked like a supermodel in cheap jeans. I realized that Becca's fixation on Sadie was more about her own insecurities than anything else. I tried my best to reassure her, reminding her that she was beautiful, smart, and had so much going for her. I even suggested therapy, but she dismissed it as a waste of time. Things came to a head when I received a direct message from Sadie on Instagram. She said she thought I was cute and wanted to hang out, even though she knew I was with Becca. I was taken aback and didn't respond. Instead, I took a screenshot and blocked her. When I showed the screenshot to Becca, I expected her to be upset, but she kissed me and said she knew she could trust me. That's when she revealed that she had asked Sadie to message me as a loyalty test. I was completely stunned. I thought this kind of thing only happened in movies. I asked Becca if her anxiety about Sadie was real or if she had faked it all along. She insisted it was real, but now felt reassured about my loyalty. While this seemed to solve her worries, it created a whole new set of problems for me. I had never given Becca any reason to doubt my loyalty. And it hurt to think that it took a fake DM for her to trust me. What if she made another hot friend or thought one of my coworkers was attractive? Would we have to go through this again? I told Becca I needed some space. She didn't understand why I was being distant, thinking everything was resolved since I had proved my loyalty. Ironically, I felt this might be the breaking point for me in our relationship. I really like Becca, but I can't be with someone who has no faith in me. I need to communicate how deeply this affected me without invalidating her feelings or making her turn against me. It's a delicate situation, and I'm not sure how to approach it. I think my boyfriend is lying about being in medical school. I recently found myself in a perplexing situation with someone I had been seeing for a few months. Let's call him Sam. We met online, and he painted a picture of himself as a dedicated medical student, on his way to becoming a doctor. At first, everything seemed fine, but as our relationship progressed, I began to feel that there was more to his story than he was letting on. In the beginning, I was charmed by his ambition and the tales of his life overseas, where he claimed to have attended medical school for a brief period. I even saw pictures that seemed to confirm his story. However, as time went on, I started to notice some inconsistencies. For one, Sam worked a full-time office job, clocking in about 40 hours a week. I had a friend, Jason, who graduated from the same prestigious medical school Sam claimed to attend, and he often spoke about the grueling nature of the program. Jason had no time for anything outside of studying, yet Sam seemed to have an open schedule, always available to hang out. Curiosity got the better of me, and I began to probe deeper. I had never seen any evidence of his studies, no textbooks, no assignments, nothing. I even had the opportunity to use both of his computers, and there was no trace of schoolwork or research in his browsing history. I couldn't help but think back to my own college days, where papers and study materials were scattered everywhere. One evening during dinner, the topic of the human ear came up. Sam confidently stated that it contained over 30 bones. I knew from high school biology that it only had 3. When I challenged him, he insisted that I was wrong because he was a medical student. So, I pulled out my phone and Googled it right there at the table, proving him wrong. He didn't take it well and seemed genuinely upset. I followed up by asking him how many bones were in the human body, and once again, he got it wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I mean, wouldn't a medical student know these basic facts? Feeling increasingly suspicious, I decided to ask if I could sit in on one of his classes. He quickly dismissed the idea, saying that his school didn't allow it. I then suggested we meet for lunch on campus, but he claimed that due to COVID restrictions, I would need a student ID to enter. When I asked to see his student ID, he said he lost it. That was a red flag for me. I even requested a selfie of him in his hospital uniform, but he said he didn't like how he looked in a white coat, despite sending me other selfies regularly. At this point, I was convinced that he was not being truthful. Some of my friends thought I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if he was lying about something as significant as medical school, what else was he hiding? I had met his coworkers and visited his office, so I knew he did have a job, but the lack of evidence regarding his studies was troubling. As I reflected on our time together, I realized that my suspicions had started to build over the last few weeks, especially after that dinner conversation about ear bones. I began to question everything I thought I knew about him. I had only been dating Sam for a short time, and while I wanted to believe in his story, the inconsistencies were becoming too hard to ignore. With all this swirling in my mind, I knew I had to confront him about my concerns. I just wasn't sure how to approach the topic without causing a rift. I had heard enough stories about people who had been deceived in relationships, and I didn't want to find myself in a similar situation. The stakes felt high, and I was determined to get to the bottom of this mystery. Would I uncover the truth, or was I simply overthinking things? Only time would tell. I want to share a story that began just a few months ago, when I started dating a guy who claimed to be in medical school. At first, I was impressed. After all, medical school is no small feat. However, as I got to know him better, I started to have some doubts about his claims. You see, to even be considered for medical school, one must pass the Medical College Admission Test, commonly known as the MCAT. It's a rigorous exam that includes a lot of science questions, and even passing it doesn't guarantee acceptance into a program. I had a couple of friends who are actual medical doctors, and I decided to reach out to one of them for some insight. I sent her a screenshot of my boyfriend's claims, and she couldn't help but laugh. She said that if he was telling the truth, she wouldn't want him anywhere near her patients. That was a red flag for me. I thought about how to approach the situation. I realized I needed to ask him some direct questions. For starters, they wanted to know his MCAT score. It's a crucial part of the application process, and if he was truly in medical school, he should have no problem sharing that information. I also planned to ask about the classes he was taking. Medical students typically study subjects like anatomy, biology, and chemistry, often putting in 4 to 8 hours of study each day. My friend, who is a brilliant biology and chemistry student, studied 3 to 4 hours daily during her first year, and it only got tougher from there. As I gathered my thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. My friend mentioned that someone who goes to such lengths to fabricate their life story often has deeper issues, such as low self-esteem or even significant mental health struggles. I had only been dating this guy for about 4 months, and I was starting to feel uneasy. After a few days of contemplation and gathering my courage, I decided to break up with him over FaceTime. I didn't reveal my suspicions about his medical school claims. Instead, I offered a vague explanation about not being ready to date anyone. There were other inconsistencies in his stories that I suspected, but I didn't want to confront him directly. I felt a bit scared of someone who would lie about such serious matters. His reaction was not what I expected. He bombarded me with texts, trying to guilt-trip me and even insisting that I meet up with him because he had bought me a present. It felt manipulative and gaslighting, and I knew I had made the right choice in ending things. Eventually, I stopped responding altogether, and after a few days of silence, I hoped I would never have to see or speak to him again. Looking back, I'm grateful for the support I received from friends and the online community. It helped me confirm my suspicions and gave me the strength to move on. Going forward, I've learned to be much more cautious about whom I trust and believe. It's a tough lesson, but one that I'm determined to take to heart.
I found out that a coworker in the same position, with the same education, experience, workload, etc., is making almost twice what I make. I began my journey at a research facility in April, working as an administrative assistant. Initially, I earned $11 an hour, but by August 2016, I was promoted to a clinical research assistant position, with a pay bump to $14 an hour. At that time, I was promised an opportunity to advance to a research coordinator role within a year, along with a corresponding raise. I was excited, especially since I had just completed my bachelor's degree in December 2016. Fast forward a year, and I found myself in a challenging situation. I was handling the responsibilities of not just one, but 2 coordinators, as our team was severely understaffed. I was putting in extra hours each week to manage the workload. Yet I had not seen a raise. During my quarterly review 2 months prior, I was informed that corporate was not approving any raises at that time. But perhaps after August, during our peak revenue season, I could expect a pay increase. Despite my hard work and the responsibilities I was shouldering, I still hadn't received a title change to coordinator, even though everyone in the company referred to me as one. Then, the unexpected happened. A coworker, who had been hired 6 months after me and had a similar educational background, casually mentioned that she was earning $24 an hour. I was taken aback. Here I was, doing the same job with the same qualifications, yet I was making significantly less. This revelation left me feeling frustrated and undervalued. I knew I had to address this disparity, but I was unsure how to approach my boss about it. My boss had always emphasized the importance of confidentiality when it came to salaries, and I respected that. However, I hadn't sought out this information. It had been shared with me. Now, armed with this knowledge, I felt compelled to seek advice on how to navigate this sensitive topic. Many commenters on my original post encouraged me to look into the market rate for my position, which I discovered was around $23 to $25 an hour. They suggested that it might be time to consider seeking employment elsewhere, especially since my current workplace had made it clear that raises were not forthcoming. It was disheartening to realize that I was doing the work of 2 people without proper recognition or compensation. After gathering my thoughts and advice from the community, I decided to meet with my boss to discuss my pay. When I brought up the need for a raise, she responded by saying she would submit a request for it. However, a week later, I found myself in her office again, and this time the conversation took a turn. She berated me for even thinking I could transition into the coordinator position, despite the fact that I was already performing those duties. She also criticized my work performance, which was puzzling since I had received high praise during my last evaluation. It became clear to me that she was making excuses to avoid increasing my pay. This was not the supportive environment I had hoped for, and it left me feeling even more undervalued. I realized that I needed to take control of my career and seek out opportunities where my contributions would be recognized and rewarded. Reflecting on this experience, I understood that I deserved better. I was dedicated, hardworking, and had proven my capabilities time and again. It was time to advocate for myself and explore new avenues where I could thrive professionally. The journey to fair compensation can be daunting, but I was determined to find a workplace that appreciated my efforts and compensated me accordingly. I recently found myself in a situation that many of us can relate to, discovering that a coworker in the same position as me, with the same education and experience, was making almost twice what I earned. It was a wake-up call that pushed me to reevaluate my career and my worth in the workplace. One day, I received an unexpected text from the wife of one of my boyfriend's friends. She was reaching out to offer me a job at a rehabilitation facility. Intrigued, I decided to go for it and interviewed for the position. To my delight, they offered me the job at $20 an hour, which was a significant increase of $6 more than my current job. At the same time, my boss called me into her office for what felt like the 100th time. She had some news that she was eager to share. With a proud smile, she informed me that I was very fortunate because corporate had approved my pay increase. She claimed that she had truly shot for the stars when submitting my new pay, and that corporate had gone above and beyond anything she ever thought I would receive. The number she revealed? $17 an hour. While I appreciated the raise, it still left me $7 short of what my coworker was making. After careful consideration, I decided to accept the new job offer and put in my 2 weeks' notice. My boss was completely taken aback. She couldn't believe I was quitting, and after a day of processing the news, she called me back into her office. With a hint of desperation, she asked what the new job was offering that was so enticing. When I told her it was $20 an hour, her eyes widened. She quickly responded, "If I can offer you that, will you stay?" I was stunned. Here I thought that $17 was the best they could do, but clearly there was more room for negotiation. I told her I would think about it, but in the back of my mind, I knew I had to weigh my options carefully. In the meantime, I reached out to my new employer and informed them that my current job was willing to match their offer to keep me. To my surprise, they came back with an even better offer. With a sense of excitement and empowerment, I decided to accept the new position. I start my new job next Monday, and I can hardly contain my enthusiasm. This experience has taught me the importance of speaking up about my worth and advocating for myself in the workplace. I'm grateful for the support and advice I received from the community, which encouraged me to take this leap. I can't wait to embark on this new chapter in my career.